This is More Than Money with Mapalo Makhu. Brought to you by Sasfin Wealth.
Welcome to More Than Money. I'm Mapalo Makhu, a personal finance columnist, and I love having money conversations that change people's perspective about finances. Why am I doing this podcast, you might ask? To talk about money. Not the paper stuff. I mean the baggage, the feeling, the emotional, heart-wrenching stuff. We find this conversation so uncomfortable to have, which is why on this podcast, I have decided to have this very difficult conversations. We are going to have some difficult discussions because better money conversations lead to better money confidence. And healthy money dialogue leads to healthy money decisions. This morning, I am joined by Jabulile Gwala, who is the founder of Siko Republik and In Good Company. Siko Republik is Africa's first Nguni print-inspired athleisure wear. Jabu, thank you so much for joining me.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I saw somewhere that you come from a very, very big family. Can you give us a little bit of background into your upbringing?
I grew up in Katlehong in the east of Johannesburg. I lived in my grandmother's house with a lot of my cousins and my sister. I really, really enjoyed my childhood. As a grown adult now, when I was going back to the house, I was even shocked at how small it looks now that I'm older. As a child, it didn't feel small. It felt warm. It felt big. It was a lot of fun. Every single day I had people to play with. But then, of course, there's a structured thing that every morning there's tea, bread. If it's a good day, there's rama on the bread or jam on the bread. For me, that was what I knew.
Growing up, clearly there was a lot of you. Did you realize that perhaps the financial means it was not a lot growing up?
I always knew as a kid that we didn't have a lot. Because, even when I grew up, there was always like that one or two house, ailing big, where you could see that, the kids in that household, were going to a multiracial school, and when you were out playing with them, they were bringing to the table different things. So I always knew that there were things that we couldn't get because we didn't have the money or the means to do it. So I think as a child, I've always kind of wondered why other people have more, how they have more, how they use it. And the conversations about money actually never happened in our household. We never spoke about it. We don't ask adult questions. And that's what I'm saying. Like, we used to use certain things like, okay, today, there's rama. Oh, and the kids are allowed to have an egg. It means someone probably got a bonus or something. But it wasn't a conversation that we had openly.
What were the conversations amongst the 11 of you as children in terms of your needs, in terms of finances?
So I was the oldest. I think the biggest conversations were even around getting small things. Because as a child, you don't realize how much trading you do already. You get 50 cents, you go buy ice next door, or you go buy a packet of chips. So already you are receiving currency, you're receiving funds, and you have to figure out what to do and how to manage it. I remember the one time, because there's so many of us, one of my uncles came to visit and he was trying to spoil us. And the man on the street was passing, those guys that sell ice cream, and we all wanted ice cream. And I picked, I think, the one that had chocolate and, vanilla inside. He looked at me and he said, no, but remember, there's a lot of us, Jabu. So you have to put that one back so we can pick this one so that we can get for everybody. And, that hit me that day to say, oh, okay, So even when you do have money, because there were so many of us, you're always just thinking about what's the best way to make this money spread? What's the best way to make it cover everyone in the household? Because even as children, you couldn't just get what you wanted. If there was something in fashion, something stylish, Amadok Martins, I will never forget that phase because I missed it completely. It doesn't make sense that we just buy you that one pair of shoe that we could just buy 3 or 4 of you a cheaper pair and cover more people. So those were the conversations. that were happening. We were constantly making trade-offs. We were constantly at least being made aware that we don't have for this and that and the other. And then my younger siblings, they just got the hand-me-downs. And when you're younger, you just get what you get given.
Based on your upbringing, how do you think it has informed the way you view money?
I had a very unhealthy relationship with money in the beginning, mainly because I felt like now that I have my own money, I want to get the things that I want. You know, I remember getting my first job and choosing to buy a car that I didn't need to buy. And really, I bought it, and it didn't matter how my financial advisor was trying to explain. Like, I mean, you don't need to get that car. You can get another one and maybe invest here. Because I grew up always having to not get the ice cream that I wanted. When I started working, I went for that ice cream that I wanted, the one with the chocolate and the vanilla inside. So, you know, you start working, you get offered credit everywhere, and all you're seeing is just, now I've got a whole lot more money. Now I've got a credit card, now I can do this. So in my first probably 10 years of working, I had more money than I had growing up, and I did not use it the way or see it the way that I see money now.
How far of the rabbit hole of credit did you end up in?
My first job, I did not get paid a lot, but there was a new duplex estate that was opening up. A friend of mine called me and said, let's go share this space. You know, let's go rent together. And then I was like, oh, I love it. It's beautiful and it's brand new, etc. And then somewhere down the line, she then said, actually, no, I'm pulling out because there's something that came out at home and all. Do you think, Mapula, I made a proper decision to walk away from that?
You were in love. You had to have this apartment.
I had to satisfy, that little Jabu that always had to not get what she wanted, because I was like, no, I'll figure it out. I stayed in a beautiful duplex I couldn't afford, had it furnished, against my mom saying, do not go get that fridge. I was like, no, Mom, I mean, it's just 300 rand a month. Who's going to die? At the age of like 21, 22, I had a beautiful apartment, beautifully furnished, beautiful car. And every month I was just like, what is going on? Why do I not have money? And every time you got promoted and you earned a little bit more, it was going into cover and cover and cover to a point where then I said, actually, this has to stop. But the rabbit hole was really bad. And you know that, when you are starting out, there are so many temptations. I mean, you get a credit card from every bank.
You are the oldest. Now you have a job. And surely, even back home, things are still not 100%. There's still some cousins and siblings that need help. Now you are living a certain type of lifestyle. And I know oftentimes people feel like, goodness, I need to give back. And come in the topic of black tax. How did you balance the two, if you did at all?
It was really tough in the beginning because I also wanted to go look after my grandmother, my mother, my siblings. Remember, for me, Lil Jab was always just like, but this is the one that I want, but I can't have it because of all of these other reasons. So when I had a little, I wanted to go and say to my grandmother, you can actually have, Japanese pizza every now and then. I'll bring it for you. I will. All of the things that I felt she was never exposed to when I was growing up because we simply didn't have. So the one was the responsibilities, so hard things that you have to help with at home, but also added things just because of my personality. I mean, my grandmother did not ask me to buy her pizza every week, but I felt like I wanted to. I want to spoil you. So that then also happened, and that also costs. And then, that's why you are having to take money from Peter and you're thinking, wait again, I will replace it with Paul's money and then I'll do this, I'll do that. But right this moment, my grandmother, each year when I passed, since grade 1, she would buy me an outfit, as a, oh, well done. So when I grew up, I'd be like, Coco, I want to do this for you. I want to do this. And all of that, it was really not because she needed those things. It was because I needed to satisfy, some of the unhealthy thoughts that I had about money and having at the time.
What was it like then when you realized that, you know what, this is not sustainable? Did you have a conversation, or it was just, you looking at yourself and saying, you know what, this is what I'm going to do? And they just had to accept that, okay, she doesn't do as much anymore?
The intervention came with my partner. We come from such different backgrounds, and his relationship with money is chalk and cheese compared to mine. And then when we started, to get serious, talking marriage and things like that, he was taking in some of my things too. So he's just like, so this is what you do for yourself, for your extended family, and it was not sustainable. Anybody who just walked in, even from just a outsider, could see that this thing is not going to work. But because I had now that responsibility that then said, the decisions you make about your money also affect me. So now it's no longer just you winging it and you just trying to figure it out. And we then had to sit and take a look at what exactly are we spending money on. And I never used to do that. I never used to go through my statements. I didn't want to know. If I don't see you, you don't see me. So when I met my partner, we had to sit down and talk about, this is what is going on. This is your salary. This is where it is going. This is what you are doing with your money. And that's when I started my journey of changing and looking at my spends and addressing my reasons behind the spend. And then slowly, because I then understood where my money was coming from and how I was spending it, I then started to pull back on some of the things that I was like, no, this I'm not going to do anymore. Because when you add it up, it feels like, no, this is just a treat for $100. But because you do so many of these $100 treats, you go here, you go here, you go here, this is what it's ending up being. And I had to deal with the fact that I will no longer be doing, some of these things, and have conversations slowly with my family. And it was easier because I was getting married, so they kind of saw it as part of the journey of, I'm no longer alone, guys. So I can no longer make a decision just by my ace. When someone calls and says, I need 1,000 Rand, I have to talk to somebody else, which made it easy for me as a exit into my bad behavior. But I think when I had someone and I started looking at my numbers, that's when my perspective or my view or my relationship with money changed.
So obviously you had gotten yourself into quite a deep mess. How long did it take you to get out of it?
I think it probably took 3-4 years. It's a lot of work. We had to sit and write down all of my creditors. Never mind the fact that we still had, a life that we were trying to build. So getting a bond, we had to sit down and then say, this is the salary that we have. How are we going to do this so that we get them going one at a time? And our strategy was always to say, who do you owe the least? So that at least you get them out of your list. So the one that had the smallest amount, you're going to give them this much, this much, this much, and then gone. And then, that's how we started to get out. And I say we because my husband was there. And I think had it not been with somebody that also helped with the accountability, because it's also easy sometimes when you've done your plan to then say, okay, but this month I won't do that 500 Rand to Mapula. I've been very good. Let me just treat myself. I'll come back to it. But if you have someone to hold you accountable to say, we will not be treating until we are done with this, that for me really, really helped. But it took a long time. It was not an easy journey. It's a lot of sacrifice. It feels like punishment in the beginning because you're just like, oh my goodness, now I can't do this. Now my money, all of it is going, in all of these places. But once it was done, it's just a very, very good feeling.
You are listening to More Than Money, a podcast collaboration brought to you by Sasfin Wealth. At Sasfin Wealth, we empower our clients to reach their global investment goals, to retire with dignity, and to leave a lasting legacy. If you would like to have real money conversations, visit sasfin.com/wealth and talk to us. Enjoy the rest of the podcast.
So you mentioned that with your partner, he comes from a very different background. How difficult was it to start having those money conversations in the beginning of your relationship when you saw that, you know what, we are getting serious here?
It was difficult. I was the oldest, so I didn't grow up having to be accountable for someone. You know, as the oldest, you just always have to figure things out and then you direct. Now I'm with someone who's saying, no, but we have to talk about this. And I'm like, no, I don't want to talk about this. This is my money. This is my salary. This is my decision. This is, it was a fight for me to get to that point. He would remind me and say, it is the funniest thing that we could be, laughing about the funniest joke in the world. But as soon as I mention, so, that spreadsheet I asked you for, and I'd be like, yeah, bonage, you see now you're ruining the party. It was very difficult for me, Mapalo, I will not lie. Because firstly, I knew that he had a different view and approach to money, and all my decisions and my reasoning never made sense to him in any case. And because he's very pedantic, he would ask and ask and ask, and I'm just like, but I don't want to give you my spreadsheet because you're always interrogating me. Every single thing now I have to explain why this one, and I hated it. I really, really hated it in the beginning. As you start to see progress, even that painfulness, you're like, okay, it's nice now that I don't have to report to Tom anymore because Tom is sorted. And that's how it got better with time. Because even that, opening up about money conversations and even with my partner was also not an easy thing for me because, like I said, I didn't grow up talking about it. I didn't grow up, seeing the planning, and so it was tough.
Okay, you've decided that you want to spend your lives together. How was planning the wedding for you guys?
We got married, just the two of us, with literally umamfundisi nomfundisi from my side. And we're in church. We had the priest that was, facilitating the ceremony or officiating it. And there was 4 of us. Our parents were not there. Our siblings were not there. There was no one. It was just us. And we're like, we're getting married. And then we told everybody when we were done. We brought our marriage certificate happy because we decided to buy a house instead of have a wedding.
Was that a decision from you or from him? Or was it like a collective decision to say, okay, this is our goal, we'd rather buy a house instead?
It was a collective decision. We spoke about it and we were just like, let's rather do this. But what followed after that was our families saying, this is not going to happen. Both our moms were livid. We had to get married in 5 months from the day we actually got married. It's a lot of money that was not planned for. We had just bought a house. We got married in this way because we wanted a home when we come back from this big ceremony. So we were like, no, we're not doing the ceremony. When we calculated what is needed for that, we were like, hey guys, this is a deposit for a house. So why are we doing this? So we had to consciously together say, now we're going to get into another debt because this will be a debt. And we're going to do it. And we're going to have a plan on how we're going to get ourselves out of it because we have our families now and we felt like, okay, our parents, they raised valid points and they felt the way that they felt. And we said, it's fine. Thank you for saying what you're saying, but our answer is no, even though our answer was no. But we had to get into that again. And I will say that was better because we had dealt with so much already. Like I said, my situation was bad before we got married. And we knew that it's going to be painful, but if we are structured and we are focused, we can get ourselves to the other side.
Yes.
We did not go extravagant. We had a wedding. It was beautiful. But we didn't blow the bank for it. And then we had to pay that off because it wasn't saved for and it wasn't planned for.
Did you not build up any type of resentment then towards your parents for feeling like it was a forced decision?
In the beginning, I won't lie, there was a little bit. And obviously the internal fights that also come with, let's just say no. Because you have to debate this and debate this and debate this. And also, okay, fine, the decision has been made. And you're like, okay, so who's funding this? And it's like, it's you. And you're like, so the people that don't want it are the ones that are supposed to fund it. So yes, I won't lie, in the beginning it was like, my goodness, can this just pass already? Can we just get through it and get to the other side? But I think, at some point we just had to just draw the line in the sand and say, we are very clear that we are not doing it because we want to. We are doing it because, it will make you guys happy. We are going to control the numbers this way. We're going to make sure that this bill is not going to be beyond, because obviously the day after we now have to deal with what's come out. We also don't talk back to our parents. We've been taught so much to not say when they are being unreasonable because you are being disrespectful. So that also caused a little bit of resentment. The fact that I actually have answers for you and I want to say something to you about what you're asking me to do, but I feel like I can't, because you're my mom. But I feel like you are being unreasonable.
Do you think or feel that set some sort of a precedence going forward when it comes to money? And how have you handled lending out money to family as a unit?
That process probably made us more united when it comes to finances and families on both sides, because we had to get ourselves out of that hole together now. And it wasn't just my hole, it was our hole, which then meant we collaborated more. The spirit itself was more understanding. There was less judgmental, anything. And my mom and his mom both wanted this thing to happen. So there wasn't an element of, yeah, but it was your mom, or no, but it was your mom. Both of them equally. So even that, responsibility of both of us taking on something that we didn't want to do, but because we wanted to please the people that we love, and then dealing with how it felt to then have to pay that off. It meant that going forward, when we were talking and discussing anything about any family member wanting money from us or trying to impose a decision on us, literally we're like, no, I will talk to my husband or he'll talk to me. But there wasn't room after that for anybody to come and put pressure on us for anything.
Let us bring in having kids. How did that change your dynamic? And how have your finances changed since then?
Children, so cute, so expensive. I think in the beginning, we just looked at what needs to be done, and you take care of this, you take care of that. Because at the time, we both had good jobs, and we then just said, okay, you focus on these 3 things and I focus on those 3 things, as long as we both felt like we could still manage. And I say that part of we both had good jobs, because when you get to entrepreneurship, it becomes something else. So when we started to have children, my little bad habits kind of came back a little, just indulging and overbuying stuff for baby, especially the first baby, going to the mall, hiding clothes, and you then want to give them what you didn't have, right? And then you're like, I never had a Barbie doll because I didn't have the money, so I wanted to have 5 of them. I never had this and that and that. So we had to go back and have tough conversations, say no, And also, just because the money is there, it also doesn't mean just waste it. If you are now saying, okay, I've paid off my debt and I have managed, my spreadsheet works a certain way, and I still have a little bit left over, I can do with it as I please. You can't question me on all the structured things that we agreed, and then you also want to question me when there's like a little something that is now extra. And then we had to pull back, because then that's also when the savings and investments then came in to say, no, there'll be rainy days in future. Now that we've overcome the debt hurdle, now let's start another journey now of saying, how do we now start to save? So the kids, they brought in added costs, school fees, food, everything. But at the time when the kids arrived, things were good and they were comfortable.
You had a very comfortable job and you decide that you want to become an entrepreneur. How did that come about?
I started school very young. I matriculated at like 15. For me, life was always a sprint. I want to grow, I want to grow, I want to grow, I want to grow. So I had a very comfortable job at a very young age. And I think at some point I reached you are now in a league that you are not really ready for. Emotionally, mentally, you are not really ready to be playing with such big boys. And I remember getting frustrated at work because of now just like, you're not hearing me, you're this, nah. And then obviously had a fallout and I was like, you know what? I need to take a step back to figure out what is it that I want. I've grown and I've got this executive position. I'm 30 years old and every single day I'm fighting in the boardroom with senior males who are, sometimes just overriding you in an end. And that's when I decided, look out. And Siko came because I've always loved exercising. Gym became my therapy. It became my place of joy because I never used to go out. I never used to go see my friends. I didn't want to do anything, when that traumatic experience happened in my life. I went to gym every single day. I was at gym for 2 hours every day. And then that's when I was like, now I'm starting to feel strong. I'm starting to really enjoy what I'm doing. I want to start shopping now for gymwear. And then when I started shopping for gymwear, the inspiration of saying there is a gap that I think I can fill. I come from a marketing background. So I said, look, I can work on a product that I can do research and see if the other people who want it. I've been doing this for corporates for a while. Let me see if I can do it for myself. And that's how entrepreneurship started. That's how Siko Republik was born.
That was quite a big change from having a job and you getting frustrated, leaving your job. How did that affect your household finances?
You see, Mapalo, that's why I kept saying, in the beginning, when there was lots of money, this was the part that I feel my household was challenged and stretched a lot. Going from 2 salaries to 1 is a lot. And remember now, you've set up your life in such a way that it is accommodated by 2 salaries. You bring in entrepreneurship and you think just because you've made a couple of tights and you've got a website and a business card that says CEO, now you have your other salary back and you realize, no, this is not happening for like months now. So you start to use up your savings because in the beginning, fine, your savings are there, you're covered for a couple of months, but that period was really stressful. And for both my partner and I, because he didn't sign up for an entrepreneur, this was not our setup. So that needed us as a couple to start again from the beginning and reestablish our relationship with our new dynamics and have tough conversations about, so are you going to go back to work? And you, which is me, on some note, but I really want to build this. And, understanding as well that he's in a very tough position now because now he's the breadwinner and he didn't sign up for it. That was tough. It took a while for us to find that groove because it also took a while for him to accept that this entrepreneurship thing is not a phasanyana. You are really sticking to it. It's like you're really wanting to do this. And in the beginning, he tried to resist. In the beginning, he tried to be like, I'm going to resist so that you realize that this is not what we're going to do and you're going to go back to work and life will go back to normal.
It's always so incredible that money dictates so much of our relationships. You started off with all of this debt. You took yourself out of that. You made really good decisions together. And now this is a whole new dynamic. Clearly, like you're saying, it has not been easy. But I think what makes it easy for you guys is that you are willing to have tough conversations. And so you've been at this entrepreneurship and be a founder for how many years now? And how has that changed how you manage your finances?
So we are on year 5 this year. So we celebrate 5 years in November. The first 3 years were tough. They were tough. I am fortunate that I actually have the husband that I have, that he supported, whether he didn't support the business, at least he supported home. And I say he didn't support the business because in the beginning, honestly, he was like, what is this? Like, I don't want us to do this. Please go back to work. But then after 3 years, you know, like now we have our own factory. We have machinery. We have staff. Like now when he walks in, you know, because, you know, it's part his, he's like, okay, you know, maybe we are moving, you know, in the right direction. And how we managed our monies in the beginning, because we didn't have for 3 years, literally you are using savings to cover business, to cover home. You are working with friends, family. I think my mom put in money into, you know, Siko Republik. I have friends, Shem, who are like, okay, we'll loan you this, we'll do this. This dream of entrepreneurship is really tough. People want to see, what's your 3-year record? How much money are you making? And you're like, but I'm just starting out. And I think that really, really helped me, the past that I've had, to have spreadsheets, you know, so everybody that I owe money, I know who they are, I know exactly how much it is, and I have a plan to say, okay, this one, this is when and how we will attend to it. And right this second, the money is coming in and it's doing this. It's for growth, it's for, you know, reinvestment, it's for bringing in this and bringing in that. So that has been my money relationship in my business now. Yeah. Every single cent, it must be accounted for, and it must be in this direction or in this manner.
What are some of your fears still about money?
I think I still fear losing it. When I left my working cushy life and learning how to make 1,000 rand stretch after being comfortable for so long, I was like, yo, you know what? When you don't have money, there are so many things that you cannot do. So my biggest fear is investing wrong, making bad choices, and finding myself in the hole again.
Jabu, you have such an incredible story, and I wish you all the very best. And I cannot wait to see Siko Republik all over the world. And I'm definitely getting myself a pair. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Mapula.
This was a Sasfin Wealth podcast. Visit sasfin.com/wealth for more information.